I'm still representing Disabled People Against Cuts North East Scotland. DPAC was founded in 2010 in response to the beginning of the austerity regime, which has claimed so many lives in the UK, as study after coroner's report after UN investigation has confirmed. When we first started speaking about the deaths from benefit cuts, people called us hysterical scaremongers, but we saw the absences in our communities long before they started showing up in official statistics and respected journals. Please listen to us now. The problem we found at the beginning was that each cut, whether to a benefit, a support service, a treatment pathway, a local amenity, was assessed on its own, in isolation, as if it was happening in a vacuum. If we make this cut but nothing else changes, things will be fine because other systems will kick in to meet the need or mitigate the damage. Of course, the problem with austerity and decisions based on austerity politics is that none of these cuts are made in isolation. As we see from the papers for today's meeting, it is not just one cut to one service in a sea of other agenda items. While the report writers have an obligation to consider duties under the Equalities Act for each measure, they can do so pretending nothing else is changing. Back in the early days, we realised that disability cuts must be assessed as cumulative impacts, because they do not only add one to the other, they exacerbate each other, and they cause severe unintended consequences. Take, for example, the rationalisation of day centre provision in the Shire. What that means is taking away a number of local services in small towns and villages and concentrating provision in a smaller number of hub services. It would make sense in a densely populated small geographic area, but Aberdeenshire is one of the largest geographic council areas in Scotland, and removing provision from one area may mean people have to travel more than an hour to get to the next closest one. But it's okay by the impact assessment because there is travel support available, except with this item, travel support is also on the chopping block. The impact assessment says some people will have mobility components to their disability benefits to pay for travel, except we're currently looking down the barrel of hundreds of thousands of people losing access to disability benefits because of the UK government cuts. When single cuts are made, other systems, healthcare, community, family, friends, charities, local provision, are able to adjust and make up for what's been lost. But after 15 years of austerity, everything that could be cut has been cut, and it's been many years since there was anything left to fill the gaps. And now we know we are looking at even more austerity, as we will either keep a Labour government trying desperately to attract right-wing voters, or we'll get a more right-wing government committing to gut social security, privatise health and social care, and remove our human rights. Everything that can be cut safely was cut years ago, and we have seen the lethal toll of implementing so many cuts on the same populations. We're asking you to reject these proposals because there are plenty of other things you can cut where the human cost is not this high. What you think of as just a wee community bus to the day centre is actually a lifeline. It's how carers are able to keep their jobs and pay for the unbelievably high costs of disability, which are nowhere near met by PIP and its equivalents. It's how disabled people are able to be part of a community where their safety and well-being are prioritised. Without it, carers have to make a choice between keeping their job or isolating the person they care for. It means that household is more likely to drop into enforced poverty created by our current social security system, and the increased stress, fear and instability puts both the disabled person and their carer at risk. These are not just singular cuts, they're not just buses. Disabled people have to fight all the time to be seen as whole human beings, and a lot of what we deal with is the way each part of our care, medical and social, imagines it's the only part. We have to do so much work to create the webs of support which cover what we need. The same should be true when looking at care and support as a whole. You can't treat these provisions as individual and unconnected elements. Of course, it's complicated, and treating it as a whole requires investment and commitment, but the consequences of not doing so can be lethal. Please reject these measures and demand a true cumulative impact assessment to be done in co-creation with the people affected. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question for Fiona. You'll have to forgive me if I face forward or my microphone will not pick up my question. But thank you again for your eloquent presentation about the effects of cuts and the cumulative impact on people, and highlighting the issue of unintended consequences as well. And of course, just to develop what you were saying further, I mean, with the stress, ongoing stress that disabled people are experiencing, not just because of cuts over the years, but the fear of them. This will, of course, as we know, have a severe impact on people's mental health. And I just wondered if you have any further comments to make or experience you can pass on of people in the local community whose mental health has been affected, sorry, my brain's gone a second. So, sort of the impact on mental health services that has been necessitated by the effects of cuts in people. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, this is one of the areas where cuts like this turn out to being a false economy, because once again, the way that these cuts are made are treated in isolation from different budget pots. But when you look at the whole, then this will end up causing more costs to come in through people who have been isolated, people who are no longer able to access community. It has physical consequences as well as mental health consequences. But the fact is that the more stress and the more burnout that happens in the carers community, the more it's going to end up costing, not just in terms of the mental health treatment that they'll need, in terms of the people who are disabled, their conditions may worsen, they'll need higher support provision than they did before. But I've had experiences both through disability activism and through my own experiences, where the fear of these cuts, the fear of not knowing where provision is going to come from, not knowing that you can rely on that provision being there in the years to come, especially for parents who have to fight for every single thing that their kids get. They fear what will happen when they're not there to fight for their kid anymore. The children may be adults, but they still need people to fight for them. And that fear is overwhelming, and it can feel like despair. It can feel like there's nothing, like there's no way out. There's no way out left. And this is incredibly dangerous. And it will end up costing the health service more. It'll end up costing the care service more. When you just provide the services early on, and you have we do so much work on how prevention is better than treatment later. It is ridiculous that we don't apply that in our own budgets in the way that we do these things. Waiting until people are in emergent situations, until they're able to provide and until they're able to be eligible for services is ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
Okay, thank you, Murray. Don't see anybody else asking to come in I've got Ross, would you come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Fiona and Sadiq, for your contributions. Impactful, to say the least. It's the cumulative element, Fiona, and forgive me for not turning around because the mic will disappear. It's the cumulative element that you've delved into it. I mean, we were talking about the in-home care earlier on, tying that together with the transportation. What would you envisage being the outcome of those two taken cumulatively, as opposed to each individual element of that taken individually?
In terms of the in-house care issues, then when people are more isolated. A lot of the time, the problem is that if people are using SDS as their way to access care, then not being able to access people who are properly trained, if there aren't enough provision in their local area, then that means that they are going to be more isolated. It means they're not going to be able to be part of communities. They would have relied on the transportation service in order to be able to access services and communities. When you take away both of them, it means that they can both they've not only lost the care that they can receive in their own home and in their own area, it means that they can't access the kinds of communities where you can build up the connections that allow that hole to be filled by community, by family, friends, all of these people. It's when you take away people's ability to access community and services, it doesn't just mean that they can't go to that single thing. It means that they lose access to the whole web of people that is connected to that, and to the type of community that does fill in when things go wrong, that does fill in when services don't step up. Thank you.
Just to follow up, if I may, Chair.
Just quickly, please. Yeah.
I'm following on from that. Would it be fair to say that the rurality of Aberdeenshire would actually increase that impact?
Severely so. It's already incredibly difficult for disabled people to develop community in rural areas because it takes so much energy to be able to get anywhere. Then it makes it incredibly difficult to then have to add on the admin cost to energy and cognitive function that comes with having to direct it all yourself, trying to find services that will do things. We often talk about disability being a full-time job in itself because we have to spend so much time accessing these services, trying to find ways to fill all the different things that we need. When you put someone in an area where those services are hard to access, it becomes exponentially harder, and it means that people just don't have the immediate community around them that lots of people in cities can rely on. Thank you.
Okay, thank